Hi, my name is Ginger Annis, Veteran Service Officer for Alexander County. Did you know there are approximately 850 World War II servicemen and women passing away each day? Each of these service personnel have a story about friendships, families, experiences, and achievements. The Veterans Service Office, in cooperation with the Alexander County Government Channel, will be hosting, in a series, several short stories shared by these courageous veterans. So sit back and enjoy our history, our heroes. Alexander County Veteran Service Officer, and today I'm joined by Glay. He was in World War II and he was in the Navy. Mr. Deal, would you like to tell us a little bit about yourself?
Well, there's not much good to tell about myself. I was born in Alexander, and I stayed here till I went in service in 1943. And I got out of service. My wife and I went to Hickory, and we've been living in Hickory ever since. And we have 3 girls and a boy. They're married, but they all live within 10 miles of us, and that's a wonderful thing. Mm-hmm. They're good children, good in-laws. They couldn't have done better. And my wife and I have been married 69 years. She's tough. She had to be to put up with me for 69 years.
You didn't give her a hard time, did you?
No, I couldn't. She's tougher than I am.
That's good. Okay, were you drafted or did you volunteer for the Navy?
I was drafted, and we got down to Spartanburg Camp, whatever it is.
Was it Camp Croft?
No, Fort Jackson.
Mm-hmm.
And they had some opening for volunteers for the Navy, so I was one of the volunteers that went in the Navy.
Mm-hmm. Why did you choose the Navy over anything else?
Well, I don't like to hike and walk, and I'd rather ride and swim.
Well, that's good. Prior to service, what were you doing?
I was going to high school. I was raised on a farm, and then at 14, I went to work for Scott Stamey and going to high school to Scott Stamey. He run Trio Grocery in the basement of J.L. Watts' clothing store. Mm-hmm. And I did that till I got married and went in service.
So you were married when you went in the service?
Yes, I was.
How many years did you stay in?
About 3 years, total about 3 years. I was in reserves for about 6 months, but I was total about 3 years.
Okay. What was the highest rank that you attained?
I never got above a seaman first class. I had passed the petty officer test, but they froze it, and I didn't stay in long enough to get it. Then they froze it. Mm-hmm. They had more petty officers than they needed, I reckon, so they froze it.
Right. Where did you go to basic training?
Bainbridge, Maryland.
And were you stationed at any bases while you were in the U.S., or was it mostly just on the ship?
Taken my basic training in Bainbridge, and then I was stationed at Fort Lee, some little camp in Virginia. Can't remember the name of it. For a few months, and then I caught my ship in Norfolk, and we left, went on breakdown, and then we went run convoy a few trips to England, and I was in Scotland when oldest daughter was born. And we came back to the States and reloaded up and reloaded with armor and went over to England then and waited around for the D-Day invasion. Mm-hmm. and it was scheduled to go in on June the 5th, but it was rainy and foggy that day, and General Eisenhower decided to postpone it 24 hours. We laid over, and on June the 6th at sunrise, we began bombarding at Normandy.
And what ship was you assigned to?
A battle wagon, USS Arkansas.
Okay. And did you make any friends in the service?
Oh, I had quite a few, and most of them's passed on.
So when you got out, did you stay in touch with them?
Yes, I did with several of them. We visited and so on, but they've all gone on now. I was kind of the youngest of the bunch.
Okay. Do you remember any of your superior officers, and if so, why?
Some of them I don't want to tell about. One of them I'll tell you about.
Okay.
He got sick, had appendicitis, and we had to send him over to a hospital ship. And we was lowering him over the side, and we threatened to drop him. He just begged us not to.
He probably didn't want to try to swim with appendicitis.
But that was kind of funny. But he forgave us when he got out back on the ship again. He'd forgiven us for that.
So he didn't make life harder for you?
No. Oh.
Can you tell us about any battles or skirmishes that you were in while you were on the ship?
Well, I just as soon not talk about them. After we left the Normandy invasion, we went up northern France to a place called Cherbourg. That was a hot place. We'd taken a hit there, and then went back to Portsmouth, England, got repairs, went down to the Mediterranean, to southern France, done a little invasion there, captured 80 couple German prisoners. I believe it was 82, but I'm not sure. And we take them aboard and take them to North Africa and drop them off at the army base there. And we went to Sicily and Italy. For a little while, we waited around there for orders to go to our next operation. Came back to the States after that.
Where did you put the prisoners? Did you have a special place on the ship to put them?
Yeah, we put them closed off a couple compartments and put them all together in a couple compartments. They were locked in. The older men, they were very nice. The young boys, they were wild and hard to deal with. We had to convince them that they was in our hands.
Right.
They understood after a while.
Right. How long did you have to keep them with you?
I think it was a couple of weeks. I can't remember exactly how long it was.
What weapons were you assigned to?
Well, I operated a 40 millimeter part of the time, and part of the time I was in the main battery, which is a 12-inch gun, and my job was to set the timer on the projectile before it goes into the barrel, so it would go off a certain length of time after it left the gun.
What were conditions like on the ship? Were they pretty good, or were they kind of rough?
Well, it was designed for about 1,000 people, and we had about 1,500 people aboard.
Mercy.
So we didn't have hot water a lot of the times, and sometimes we didn't have enough fresh water. But we managed to make it.
Did you have any hairy situations or close calls while you were there?
Well, a couple, but I ain't used to go into that. Nobody's interested in them stories.
How did you handle being away from your home and family?
Well, it was rough. back in those days, you could write a letter. You didn't have a phone or anything you could call, but you'd write a letter, and sometimes they'd get it in a week's time, and sometimes it might be 2 or 3 weeks before it ever got to them. In the same way, when we'd get mail from them, it may even be a month from the time they wrote the letter. We didn't have communications like we got now.
Right. Did you have to wait till you went back into port to get your mail, or did they drop it to you from a plane, or how did you get it?
Well, some of the base stations, like in the Philippines, we had a post office at Manila for the Navy, and they would fly the mail over and drop it off at the Fleet Post Office, and we'd send someone, and I went myself a few times and get our mail and bring it back, and then they would have a mail call, but sometimes it'd be a month. The letters were a month old before we got them, you know, even longer than that sometimes.
What did you do for fun or during your leave time whenever you were in the service?
Well, we didn't have any money much. You couldn't do anything much other than walk around and look. But we saved the money so we could have money to come home if you got to leave. And our daughter, oldest daughter, was 3 weeks old when I saw her the first time, and she was 11 months old when I saw her the next time. And that was the only way you just didn't have an opportunity to come home, you know.
Right. When she was 11 months old and you saw her, did she know who you were?
No, she didn't. She didn't have a clue who I was.
Did faith play a part in your time away from home?
Yeah, oh yeah.
And did you receive any medals or awards for your time in service?
Well, nothing more than what everybody else aboard ship.
Well,
that's a flag with 48 stars, which you don't see anymore.
Okay.
And that's the different areas we served in. We had 3 battle stars to our credit. And that's the ruptured duct. That's the disc you wore when you got discharged.
Okay.
And that's a medical indicator there. And of course that's U.S. there. And this is one was awarded to us after the war from France. And that was a European theater.
A nice collection there.
That's not much. I'm just glad to be home and glad to be free and glad to be here today.
Right. What was your occupation when you left the service?
When I left for the service, I was working in a hosiery mill, Duke Hosiery Mill in Hickory. And then went in service, came back, and of course I got my job back, but I didn't stay at that very long. I changed jobs, and I was in business for 12 years, grading and septic tank business. And
did you keep any items from your uniforms other than what you've got in your display case?
No, I've got a couple of caps and my top coat, or pea coat, the Navy called it. Violet had her sister to make a top coat for our son. He was the baby. And she made a top coat out of that. And the rest of them, the clothing, I didn't do. They just were in a drawer, I think, somewhere.
Why did they call it a pea coat?
I don't know. That was I could tell you, but I'd rather not tell you why they called it that.
Okay.
So that was a top coat in the Navy.
So a peacoat was kind of slang, maybe.
Yeah, it could be that.
Would you like to show, now, can you explain what these are?
Oh, that's my dog tags. Back in them days, and they were round. Now they're square and got a notch in them.
Mm-hmm.
But that's, I wore those things. You wore them things. Even when you're taking a shower, you still wore them. You just
Right.
left them on, so be sure you'd have them in case something would happen to you.
Mm-hmm.
And they stood the time of test pretty good. I had a friend of mine to make this for me,
Mm-hmm.
and it's lasted good, still in good shape.
Sure is.
And that was in '43.
Now, you've got a couple of knives here. Where did they come from?
Oh, that's that was issued to us. When I first started overseas,
Mm-hmm.
they issued it to us. U.S. Navy, see it there?
Yeah, I sure do.
That's a Navy issue.
Mm-hmm.
And then when we went to the Pacific, some of the guys didn't have theirs, so they reissued new knives to everybody. And this is a different type here, but it's
Now
got
that one even has U.S. Navy.
it's got it on
the
there.
cover,
It's got it on the blade too.
And what's that 6 for?
That was a division I was in aboard the ship.
Okay.
I was in the 6th Division. If that was what the 6th was on there for.
Okay. Were any of your family members or ancestors in the military?
Not that I can think of. Most of them was horse thieves and bank robbers, and I don't say much about them.
Okay, we won't talk about that.
Okay.
Are you currently active in any of the veteran service organizations?
I belong to the VFW, and that's about the extent of my connection with them.
Do you have any words of wisdom or any advice for the young people of today regarding the military?
Every young man should serve at least 2 years in the military. If it's in peacetime especially, 'cause that's the best thing can happen to them. They'll find out what it's like to have and appreciate freedom. So many of them don't even appreciate freedom.
Right.
They don't know the meaning of it.
Right.
And they don't know what freedom costs. Freedom's an expensive thing.
Yes, it is. Do you have any other words of wisdom for us today?
I don't have any words of wisdom, period. Oh,
Well, Mr. Deal, I want to thank you so much for talking to me.
I want to thank you and Mr. Richie over there. That's mighty nice of y'all to do this for us old fellas.
Well, it's our pleasure. And thank you for your service to the country.
It's my pleasure to serve people like you.
Well, thank you.
I wish there's more people like you and him in this world.
Thank you.